Hello people and welcome back to another video. As you can see, your boy got a fresh cut, but this is not the reason why we are here today. Today I'm gonna talk about something that I really like, and that's the gear. So today I'm gonna present to you guys 3 YouTube camera setups from expensive to middle ground to budget. So without making this any longer, even if this will probably be a little longer than usual, just make sure that you have like a snack around you, or an apple or whatever, a soda, a beer. So let's get right into it. The first camera setup is the most expensive one. So let's say you have all the money in the world. Money are not a problem, even though money are a problem, but let's say you have all the money in the world, what you're gonna buy. And here I can recommend 2 camera brands, and I would recommend these 2 camera brands just because I worked with both. So I think I'm in a position to like recommend the both of them. So the first one is Sony and the second one is Canon. So we're gonna like build the first camera setup with the Sony. So for the camera, you're gonna go with the Sony a7S III. I think you already saw a lot of like reviews on the internet, YouTube and stuff like that, so I'm not gonna go over the specs. So now that you got the camera, you're gonna need a lens, and I think for YouTube and vlogging the best lens is the 16-35 f2.8 G Master, even though this lens is like really expensive, like a kidney or something, and is not stabilized, but this is the best lens on the market and is like Sony natively and stuff like that. So this is like the killer combo, Sony a7S III and 16-35 2.8. Now the next thing that you're gonna need, if you want to use like all those 240 fps in 1080p and 4K 120 on the a7S III, you're gonna need memory. So for the memory, you need to buy the new Type A card from Sony, and for 160 gigabytes you're gonna pay a whopping $398. So just keep that in mind. If you want to use like the 240 fps, like I said, you need to buy that card, otherwise you can't use it. So now that you got the memory, the next thing that you're gonna need is audio. And for the audio option, I went with Rode Wireless Go Mark II, just because it's a great lav mic and because it's gonna keep your setup fairly compact. The next thing on the list, tripods. Of course there are a lot of tripods options on the market, and of course like for YouTube and stuff like this, like the SwitchPod is a great tripod, but like the most versatile tripod that there is still the Joby GorillaPod. And here, because this setup is pretty heavy, I would recommend to go with the 5K. So why you need a 5K? Just because this setup is pretty heavy and you don't want to have that stress on your head that your camera is gonna fall over if you have like a 3K for example. So 5K Joby GorillaPod. And now the next setup, the Canon setup, we're gonna go with Canon R5, and I know a lot of you already know about that overheating issue with Canon. Okay, you can keep that in mind that, I don't know, Canon is not that reliable, at least this specific model, but the R5 is a great camera. So just make sure that you have this thing in mind, that, I don't know, like the Sony, the a7 III is more reliable, but keep in mind that this Canon is like a beast of a camera as well. So Canon R5. And for the lens, you need to go with a 15-35 f2.8 RF lens, and the major difference between this one and the 16-35 2.8 G Master is the fact that this one is stabilized. So that's a big plus right there, because you're gonna have the camera IBIS and the lens is stabilized as well for more stable footage, even though this one is a little bit more expensive than the 16-35 2.8. The next thing, for the audio solution, you can still go with the Rode Wireless Go Mark II. For the tripod, you can go with Joby GorillaPod 5K. And for the memory, because I almost forgot about the memory, for the memory you can go with 128 gigs Sony Tough card, and that one is going to be like $210, I think, if I'm not wrong. You're gonna see the prices on this side of the screen right here. So $209, half from the Type A card for Sony a7S III. So that's another thing to keep in mind. So now, after we're gonna draw the line, for the Sony setup right here, you're gonna pay $6,389, and for the Canon setup that you're gonna see right here, you're gonna pay $6,802. So If money is not a problem, I would go with these two setups. For the middle ground camera setup, let's say you don't have all the money in the world, but you still have some money to spend. So right here I would go with the Sony a7C, just because you have gyro data, you have 4K 30, you have full HD 120, and really important, you have a flippy screen. Thank you Sony for that. And I like the fact that this camera is like a compact body, so that's great for run and gun filmmaking or YouTube. Now for the lenses, you can go with 20mm 1.8 G Master, 18mm f2.8 Rokinon or Samyang, and Tamron 17 to 28 2.8. Neither of these lenses are stabilized, and you're gonna see like at the end of this like full setup construction, let's call it like that, this full setup construction, you're gonna see the prices as well. For the memory, I would go with Lexar V60. V60 comes from video class, so Lexar Professional V60, 64 gigs. That's a pretty good card. For the audio option, I would go with a budget option, shotgun mic, a Rode Video Micro. And for the tripod option, just because this camera setup is not going to be as heavy as the other ones that I talked about before, I would go with Joby GorillaPod 3K. That should be enough. Now the grand total of this A7C camera setup, if you're gonna go with 20mm 1.8 G Master from Sony, is going to be $2,829 if I'm not wrong. If you're gonna go with the Samyang or Rokinon 18mm f2.8, the grand total is going to be $2,328. This one is pretty decent. And last but not least, if you're gonna go with the Tamron 17 to 28 f2.8, the grand total is going to be $2,827. That's a pretty solid setup right there. But let's say your budget is even smaller, so the best YouTube camera setup that I would recommend if you're on a tighter budget, I would go with the Sony a6400. Great camera, 4K 30, Full HD 120, flip screen, actually not flip screen, tilt up screen, but still you have a tilt up screen. The only drawback with the Sony a6400 is the fact that this one still operates on Sony NP-FW50, like the Sony old batteries, and we all know like the battery life on those ones. Just keep that in mind. For the lenses, we have two options. You're either going with Sigma 16mm f1.4, or you can go with the new Tamron 17 to 70 f2.8. Neither of them are stabilized, and the camera body doesn't have IBIS either, so another thing to keep in mind. After you got your lens, for the audio option, I would still recommend the Rode Video Micro. For the memory, I would still go with the Lexar Professional V60 64 gigs, and last but not least, I would still recommend the Joby GorillaPod 3K. And now, if you're gonna go with the Sigma 16mm f1.4, the grand total of this camera setup with the a6400 as your camera body is going to be $1,411. Or if you're gonna go with the Tamron 17 to 70 f2.8, your grand total of the camera setup is going to be $1,831. So there you have it, people. This is the video. I hope you enjoyed it. You can tell me in the comments down below what do you think about these camera setups and which one would you choose if you're on a tighter budget, or if you have all the money in the world. Just tell me in the comments down below which one you like the most. Before I'm gonna end this one, just make sure that you're gonna hit that subscribe button, because last time I checked, 87% of you guys that are watching my videos, you're not subscribed. So I guess you're enjoying my videos, so you can hit that subscribe button. It's not that hard. And I'm gonna see you guys in the next one. Peace.